we're back with to MILELE, and we are on chapter 20. The neat thing about that is that we're halfway through, as this book has 40 chapters, though some of them are kind of short, several of them. So that's exciting. Well, a lot happened in chapter 19. Things are getting different, unusual, but we're perhaps understanding some more of who people really are, not what they seem. So, first of all, Keiko and his fleet are remaining on the waters of Eden 2, which means they are inside the atmosphere of Eden 2 because they've come through the mist. But apparently they have a small dome, a portable dome, similar to the huge dome on Eden 2 in the interrogation and debriefing chambers that can help if they need, care inside that, as well as they have extra supplies of air and food and stuff. And we're also perhaps could commission it from Eden too. So that's an issue because he's bent on staying there until, well, Hope goes through the barrier and comes to him. Baby Moses, on a more pleasant note, is shown as being cared for and loved by many. He's actually got a nickname, Momo, M-O-M-O, which I believe Boa gave him, Uncle Boa. And also, there was a the chapter ended with a very unusual occurrence where Ruth experienced a supernatural travel to the mist patch with a stranger that was carrying hope. He seemed a stranger, but yet not a stranger. And then Hope finds herself dreaming about being in the patch with this stranger who seemed to like Agios, but yet not. And she is apparently going across the barrier, but this time without passing out. So it'll be interesting to see what indeed is beyond this invisible barrier in the mist patch. So I'm glad you're here with me for chapter 20 so we can get a glimpse. All right. Okay, but we're not starting there in the mist patch. We are in Israel. It seemed as if they had been traveling forever, never stopping at one place for long. How many weeks had it been since he'd escaped, become a fugitive with these people he'd only ever heard about? The underground Israeli loyals were alive and well and very active. Even after being with them for weeks, Nathan still found it hard to believe he was walking on the very frontier of Prince Adani's revolution. It was estimated that there were thousands of these Israeli men all over the world, and that not taking into account their followers, their supporters. Their sole purpose in life was even more sacrificial than that of the Eden 2 population. They lived without the attachments of home and family to promote Prince Adani as future king and to harness millions of followers. The careening truck suddenly stopped, causing Nathan and its occupants to jolt crazily in the dark rear compartment of the truck. Hearing Faith gasp, he instinctively reached out to shield her from falling off the makeshift seats of wooden crates and boxes. "Are you okay?" he asked, pulling her back against him. Hushed groans and complaints arose from their companions. "I'm good," she said. He couldn't see her, but he could hear the attempts of a smile in her answer. It was her way, always optimistic and encouraging to others. He had learned that about her these past few weeks, along with a bit of her personal history. Beneath the secret agent turned rescuer was an Ethiopian immigrant to Israel. one who'd originally come as a teenager to live with relatives and attend university. Amazing how plans changed. The protectiveness Nathan felt toward her had increased over the weeks they'd been together. He knew his feelings were becoming a tangled mess of emotions that should be held in check considering the circumstances, but he couldn't help it. His feelings for her had already been provoked when they'd first met, when she'd played the role of his seductress in order to facilitate their escape. He might just be a mission to her, but he knew his vulnerability before her. He'd do anything for her, follow her anywhere. Despite their short time together, Nathan knew that no matter what happened, he would never leave her. Creaking from the rear doors silenced everyone. Nathan's breath held. Light beamed in from the open doors, and Judah's deep voice echoed in. Nathan breathed. "You can all rest easy now," Judah said, laughing softly. "We'll walk from here." He remained by the open doors, holding up a lantern flashlight against the night. Sighs of relief and muted excitement arose from the others. Of course, knowing that the coast was clear was good, but Judah's voice alone evoked the same sense of trust and confidence Nathan felt the first time he'd heard Judah's "welcome friends" after his and Faith's escape from Tel Aviv. Now, if you remember when Nathan and Faith got to a destination after escaping, there was the opening of a door and a man's voice had welcomed them into this stone building outside, far outside of Tel Aviv. This is the same man. After jumping down from the back of the truck into dark, warm air, Nathan reached up to help Faith down. Afterward, he attempted to take her backpack, but she held onto it firmly, smiling her appreciation while rejecting his action. He often wondered what she thought of him. His instinct was to care for her, protect her, but she'd been trained in Israeli special security. She was frustratingly independent, and with combat skills he knew could best his. Shouldering his own overstuffed backpack, Nathan followed Judah along with the group of 10 people. They were only one of many such groups that had left Israel via the Mediterranean Sea. From there, different groups would travel east, west, north, and south, all with the intention of covering the globe to spread their message. The message of Prince Adoni's benevolence, his kingdom, and his inevitable future rule of the world. The mission to rescue Nathan was special. All of his intel on the Council of Nations had already been collected to be shared and examined. Now he was being escorted to Eden too, so that his sister would no longer face the pressure of blackmail from Keiko Bays. Nathan was still amazed at how much intel these people already had, considering the fact that most of the world was still under the mist and had no internet access. He looked around. It had been a while since he'd been under the mist, and now being here close to the Mediterranean Sea, he realized that the gray mist starting just at the edge of the land and over the water would be his new norm. But for once, Nathan was thankful for its covering. A path cleared through the group. Judah was walking towards Nathan, still holding the lantern. "Mr. Kanisa, we're waiting for our contact here, then we'll leave as soon as possible." Even though Nathan had insisted on no formalities, they all still treated him like a dignitary, except for Faith. He guessed he was older than she, but she treated him like a younger brother. It bothered him. "Please let us know if there's anything you need, anything we can do for you," Judah continued. To Nathan, it felt ridiculous that this big man, and big he was, over 6 feet with a hardy frame, who was a leader among leaders, continued to show him such deference. Nathan perused the expectant faces all around him. He smiled casually, hoping to put everyone at ease. Please, we're all in this together. Just get me to Eden too, that's all I ask. He looked at Faith. She smiled encouragingly. He continued, and anything I can do to help, I will do. His words seemed to gain approval, and the group spoke encouragingly among themselves. Judah, the signal, someone suddenly said in a hushed tone. Judah turned and hurried forward. They all followed. How often does this happen? Nathan whispered to Faith as they followed the others. What? Stowing away on trucks, ships, planes? She kept moving as she spoke. All the time. There are more participants in this than you can imagine. With that, she grabbed his wrist, hurrying him along down uneven steps. Blasts from a series of foghorns greeted them as they stepped into the unforgiving gray world. So now Nathan will be under the mist once more, not just on his travels with Keiko as in the past, but now basically he's a fugitive under the mist. New scene. Nathan woke with a start, frightened. He peered through the darkness but couldn't see anything. Under the mist, night's darkness was very thick, a thickness barely relieved even under a full moon. He sat up cautiously. His narrow bed seemed unsteady, but then he remembered he was on a ship. He felt sick. After flying across the world so many times, it never occurred to him that he would be unfortunate enough to suffer from seasickness. Running a hand over his hair, he groaned in disgust. The dryness in his mouth didn't bother him as much as the churning in his stomach, though he was sure there couldn't possibly be anything left to upchuck. Feeling any better? Nathan looked across the narrow space between beds. Judah's head was propped up on one hand, a lit lighter in the other. I'll survive. Judah grinned. He reached over to light a thick candle on the small, nondescript table between them. The room glowed. He rested the lighter by the candle. It happens to the best of us. Thrusting his light blanket aside, Judah swung his legs over the side of the bed, letting them land lightly on the floor. You're young and healthy. You'll adjust. Give yourself a few days to get your sea legs. Nathan smiled, thinking that Judah couldn't be any more than 5 years older than he. Trying to downplay his condition, Nathan responded, Please don't worry about me. Compared to some of our narrow escapes, this is doable. Despite tending to him for the better part of the night, Judah appeared rested, alert. He always seemed to have a tense awareness about him. Nathan guessed it was the natural result of being one of the estimated over 140,000 underground Israeli loyals, men loyal to the cause of Prince Adani, knowing the choice meant they had to forsake all, even having a family. Knowing how he felt about Faith, Nathan wasn't sure he could join that club. We knew we had to use one of our best to get you out. Faith meets the mark. Judah paused for a moment as if weighing his next words. You seem to really care about her. Nathan tried to smother the sudden urge to cough, but failed. Are you okay? Judah asked, coming towards him, arm outstretched. At the same time, the room door opened. Judah froze, and Nathan continued coughing while looking at the doorway. A moment's pause and faint spill of light from the hall. Then she came in like a breath of fresh air. Nathan's coughing stopped, leaving rawness in his throat. Judah, you should at least have some water in here, Faith scolded. She shoved between them, holding something in her hand. Judah didn't finish. Faith bent over Nathan with her back to Judah. It's ginger tea. She held out a small tin thermos then quickly unscrewed the lid before handing it to him. She placed the lid on the bed beside him. A small cough escaped from Nathan. "Here, quickly," Faith urged, very maternal. "You've hardly had anything in almost 2 days. This will help with the nausea and dehydration." Nathan looked up briefly. Her brown eyes were filled with worry. He felt a little lightheaded as he took the thermos and brought it to his lips. He was afraid of what might happen once the liquid hit his stomach, but more afraid to disobey her. He heard Judah clearing his throat as the warm liquid flowed into him. The ginger taste wasn't very strong, but it was noticeable. Peeking around Faith, Judah said, I'll go check on things." He cleared his throat again. "Okay," Faith said, still focused on Nathan. "I'll stay with him until you return." She turned away from Nathan to claim the abandoned spot on Judah's bed. Sitting facing him, she braced herself from behind with palms flat against the bed. She smiled encouragingly. "Take it slowly, but drink as much as you can while it's warm." Feeling suddenly self-conscious under her gaze, Nathan lowered the thermos. "Thank you, but you really don't have to stay with me. I'll be..." Faith raised a hand to stop him. "It's fine. You're under my direct charge until you're safely delivered to Eden 2. "You? I thought... Isn't Judah in charge of this mission?" Head to one side, she gave him a childish grimace, then moved to sit cross-legged with Judah's pillow on her lap. "Overall, he's the mission leader to relocate this group, and yes, that includes you. However, you're an extremely special case, so I was assigned to be with you until the very end." She must have seen the confused look on his face, so elaborated further. "We won't be with Judah and this group the whole way. We'll separate at the island of Sicily." "I see," Nathan said. So far, the liquid in his stomach felt good, but he didn't want to overdo it. He picked up the lid from beside him and replaced it. "Thanks for the tea. It seems to be working." "You're welcome. Keep the lid tight and have some more in a bit." "Okay," Nathan said. He felt uncomfortable, not knowing where to look, so he looked out the porthole. Nothing to see. I guess it'll be morning soon," he said, still looking out the porthole, feeling the need to make small talk. Though unwell, there was a burning in his chest at Faith's presence. His gaze, as if its own volition, was drawn back to her. She dressed the same as the entire group, simply and in dark clothing, compliments of their fugitive lifestyle. Her wavy hair was pulled back in a sloppy ponytail, and her features a contrast of light and shadow. She was beautiful. "Why don't you lay back down?" she asked, still smiling. "With you sitting there?" He was nonplussed. She was so clueless. She shrugged, setting the pillow aside. "Of course, I'll leave as soon as my cousin gets back." "He's your cousin?" With her knees drawn up to her chin, Faith wrapped her arms around her legs. "I guess you wouldn't know that." She sighed. "Even though I'm Ethiopian and he's Israeli, we're related through my mother's family. We try to keep personal information at a minimum from others in the group, less to spill if you're caught." Nathan gingerly lowered the thermos to the floor by his feet. He straightened. "But you're telling me?" "Yes." She changed her position, lowering her feet to the floor. He wanted to ask her why. She answered for him. "You're different. They're after you to control your sister. They won't do anything to you. They don't even care about the wealth of information you have. They're so sure of their invincibility and ability to control the world." He thought about her words, knowing what she said was true. He decided to open up to her as well. "Keiko Bays has always known about my sister's other identity, more than her ability to go through the mist patch into what we believe is another dimension with unimaginable answers. More than that, he wants what belongs to Prince Adani. She is the prince's betrothed, the representative of all loyals." "I know," Faith said simply. Along with Mendex Nebian and the Council of Nations, they plan to harness everything. They also have Scarlet Babylon's wealth and influence to achieve the envoy's ultimate goal to control all and destroy everything related to our prince's return. Nathan shifted on the bed. Not everyone in the council is convinced, he said. They'll be killed. She said it emotionlessly, as if it were a matter of course. But she was right. Nathan knew that, across the world, many who opposed the envoy had already, to put it tastefully, been silenced. Faith peered at him intently. Also, Ms. Babylon must be furious. She has never lost a man she wanted. Nathan swallowed. You know about that? I know everything about you. She said it so easily. The subject was weighted, so Nathan decided to change it. Your cousin has taken his time. He looked at the ajar door and attempted a joke. Is he okay leaving you here alone with me? Her expression showed confusion. Why? Then awareness dawned. What could you possibly do to me? She asked, merriment in her eyes. Heat rushed up his neck to his face. Their gazes locked, and he couldn't think of what to say. She was obviously secure in her ability to protect herself. Turning on the bed, Faith lay down comfortably on her back. Lay down, she said. I'll leave when he comes. Suffering another blow to his male ego, Nathan exhaled slowly through pursed lips. He lay back, feeling somewhat chagrined. How could he even dream of winning over a woman who was so doggedly independent? It was extremely silent for a while, but for the constant hum of the cargo ship. Then the sweetness of her voice filled the room. But I'll try my best not to do anything to you and get you home safely. I'm pleased to be protecting someone so very important. There was humor in her tone, and he perceived she was trying to set him at ease, but her words actually achieved the opposite. New scene. Nathan awoke to the perpetual dawn that was daytime. He was getting used to not seeing full sunshine. He sat up slowly, realizing that he was the only one in the cabin. He had just emerged from a dream about being tossed to and fro by relentless currents deep under the water. Just as he thought he could no longer hold his breath, someone grabbed him by the hand and hauled him up for air. Gasping to breathe, he looked into his rescuer's face. It was Agios. He basked for a moment in the lingering sense of Agios's comforting presence, breathing a sigh of relief that it had only been a dream. He took in his surroundings. The bed across from his had been neatly made. He glanced at the closed door. He could hear muted voices. Easing himself off the bed, hand on his stomach, he paused, marveling at how well he felt. Was it his imagination? Was he really well? A sudden thrust propelled him forwards, landing him face down on Judah's bed. Gasping at the unexpected movement, he twisted onto his back. The low ceiling swam above him. Then he knew it. It was a storm. And so I leave you at the end of chapter 21 with Nathan still in a pickle, a dilemma, and now Faith seems to have added to it. And I will see you again for chapter 21. Take care.